Hello everybody, my name is Carmen Ketron. I'm the Urban Horticulture Agent for Florence and Darlington counties. But today I'm here in the beautiful Horry County at UCLA, or Upper Conway, Lower Aynor, specifically Cool Springs. We are along the busy 319 highway to the beach, so you'll hear a whole bunch of traffic. But one of the best things is, tucked away along this busy highway is the beautiful Sassafras Nursery and Herbs. And I'm here today with Mr. Chuck Cahoon, owner, proprietor with his lovely wife. And we just wanted to talk about what a fabulous garden and nursery he has today. Chuck, thank you so much for having us.
Well, thanks for coming.
You have such a distinctive garden. It just has a life of its own. Tell me how you started gardening and how you envisioned all this, how it all came to be.
I've always been what you'd call an eclectic gardener. I never liked everything like everybody else had. So when we went on vacations, we would seek out that oddball nursery for that oddball plant. My wife could tell you horror stories about being on the side of a mountain in North Carolina looking for Sandy Mush Herb Nursery. But gardening started out as a necessity, feeding a young family. And then later on in construction, it became therapy. Come home to pull off the shirt and tie, get your hands in the soil, and just release the day's tension. Now, it's a passion. We enjoy sharing. I'm fully retired now, so I have the time to put into not just the propagation and the keeping of the plants, but my own gardens. My own garden suffered while everything else was going on.
But you have a beautiful garden and a lot of really cool stuff going on in it. Tell me a little bit about maybe some of the things that you're trialing out in the garden that the average gardener might not know about.
Being in construction, I'm a little bit of a Fred Sanford. I always brought home salvaged materials. We'll see one area where we renovated Ripley's Aquarium's Marine Science Center, and all of their old fish tanks were changed out to new ones. And I said, that looks like a planter to me. And I brought home those and didn't just fill them with compost. I used a little bit of hugelkultur and filled the bottom with chunks of wood and limbs and leaves and everything else. It cut down on the amount of compost I needed too. You'll see trellises made out of old bed frames, the cheapest way you can build a trellis. All kinds of salvaged materials. My grape arbor is made out of concrete reinforcing rebar. As far as things we're trying different, I follow a guy on YouTube, and he called them living pathways. So I'm using annual rye this year, and I stress annual because mid-May, late May, the annual rye should die out. But right now, it makes a gorgeous pathway. My puppy dogs just love to roll around in the pathway. But hopefully, if it works, I'll harvest that rye and use it for mulch on the garden. More and more, I'm trying to go to a no-till garden setup. If you take that same compost material and you till it into the soil, you introduce so much oxygen into that mix that our microbes are active 10 months out of the year, and they just go crazy. And they will burn through that organic nutrition in a year's period of time. The next year, you'll have soil that looks dark, and maybe the tilth is better, but the nutrient value is gone. So learning to put it on top and letting the earthworms and all the micro life that's going on pull it down into the soil structure. That's an old soybean farmer learning the hard way, I guess, but starting to try to do no-till.
Now tell me about your layering method for a lot of the vegetable gardens you have.
So this year has been a reclamation project, and to pull that initial layer off and then lay down cardboard. And the cardboard, with the plastic removed and as plain Jane as you can get for the cardboard, it acts as an initial layer for the weed seed not to germinate back through. And then the next layer is leaves and bark and tree limbs and everything I can get my hands on of a woody, porous nature. And that's going to go down in a 3-inch layer or so. And then those reclaimed fish tanks we were talking about, I moved 3 of them. So I had a good source for compost to empty those. And I capped those beds with 3 inches of compost. And then on 3 of the beds, the next layer was a mineral additive just to help with overall nutrition of the soil, because I'm feeding the soil, not the plants.
You're making
I'm
soil.
feeding the soil.
Yeah.
I did a mineral supplement and then a layer of a shredded pine bark that I use here in the nursery as a planting medium. And then I used wine cap mushroom spore and another layer of the pine bark. And the goal is September, October of this year, I'll have wine cap mushrooms. There's another area that I have reclaimed, and I've completely tarped it for the summer with a silage tarp, a black, heavy plastic tarp. And the idea is to cook that weed population down in this fall, reclaim that as a garden, so that I can start doing some rotation things with cover crops.
Oh, how cool. The thing I love about your garden is how unique and eclectic it is, and that flows over into the nursery. So what goes into your decision of what you're going to propagate?
It really came from our own garden. I mean, over the years, we've collected the unusual. I don't want to be like everybody else, and I don't want to grow everything that they grow. So that's where it's taken us. I love taking someone through that for the first time, and I will encourage them to pinch off something and smell the different things. We have a salad Bernays that it's not all that pretty a plant necessarily, but you break it off and you taste it and it tastes like cucumber. So that's a cool weather source of a cucumber flavor when cucumbers aren't available. We have a cutting celery. You can't grow a stalk celery here in our climate, but this cutting celery, if you mince that leaf and little bitty stalk that it has, it's such a strong celery flavor that you would use less of it in your recipe. We have an anise hyssop that I always ask, do you like or do you hate black jelly beans? Because that's a spectrum question. There's nobody really in the middle. And when somebody that loves a black jelly bean, when I break that off and bruise it and let them smell it, it smells just like black licorice. So those kinds of things, those different plants, is just where my natural selection goes to, and that's what we enjoy sharing with the folks that come here. And we do a lot of medicinal plants that nobody carries in our area. And my wife knows a lot of those uses. We have to be very careful about sharing the medical knowledge. We just have to direct it. Here's where you can go research that and decide for yourself. Part of what I share with folks is because all of our plants, it's either taken from a cutting here or it's a seed that was grown here, and then it overwinters here. If you take one of our plants home and put it in the ground 2 miles or 5 miles away, it thrives because it's used to our conditions. I've got a fig, and we propagate a brown turkey fig. I got the start from behind the corn crib of my grandfather's dairy farm. And I've taken that fig plant with me all over the United States in a big pot. And when we got here, I planted it in the ground. We have a red leaf plum that in a different location. When I grew up in high school, they were in that yard. Well, my aunt back in dairy country wanted one. So we give her a start. My folks move. My aunt's got the stock now. I get a start from her. Hers gets blown down in a hurricane. I have that tree with me, and I propagate that tree now. My mom, in growing up, had a bad hip. Okay, so she loved flowers, but she wasn't physically able to do a lot. So I gardened for her, and grew those flowers for her. And just, it became part of who I was.
Where can other people find out more about you?
We have a Facebook page, Sassafras Nursery. Our address, 3221 Highway 319, Aynor. not Conway. That'll put you in the wrong spot. The one thing that's confusing is because we're not set up like a garden center, there's not a big parking lot, there's not a lot of flashy signage, and people walk in here and they are amazed at how much they find in behind a pretty low-key front display.
But always look for that purple sign. That's what I always clock when I'm driving by. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.